Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. Hoping and praying that everybody is well and will be better. This is your brother and friend, Yeshaya Israel. Brothers and sisters, we call this one here Celebrating Black History. We're going to be talking about some things that are known, some things that may not be known to many. But brothers and sisters, we definitely care to sit there and bring this out for reference purposes. We are on the platforms and giving honor to the Most High. More Yeshaya Torah lessons, More Yeshaya history lessons, and the Facebook profile, Yeshaya Author Danite. So brothers and sisters, we ask you to check the description and you will see the link, brothers and sisters, to the website. And on the website, there are more videos. On the website, brothers and sisters, there's also a way to acquire the books that a brother has written, if you're interested. Most of the things that will be presented through Danitepublications are presentations regarding history and Hebrew. I do not know, brothers and sisters, how long this presentation will be. But we are starting now officially at 8:25 Eastern Standard Time and have no intention to go past 10 p.m. So without any further ado, we want to do the share screen, if we will. Thank you for that, family. If we will, in that particular case. And pull this up, if we will. Right? And it was upon one spirit to sit there and want to, in due respect, bring this out to the people in love and respect. We ask you, if you care to take screenshots. It is welcomed, brothers and sisters. The number is across the screen, 908-587-4841. So, without any further ado, let us, if we will, family, get into this particular matter. Thank you for that. Black history. From before and during slavery. Now, we know, brothers and sisters, that there have been many people who have been enslaved. And each person's history, whether sad or happy, is independent and unique to himself or herself. This is not, via Danitepublications, a way to portray or present as if our suffering is worse, though it was, than others. Because another person's suffering is real to him or her. So we're not trying to minimize anything. In part, if anything, what we want to do is not have our struggle minimalized. Oh, we was already here. We was indigenous. We didn't come on those ships with urine and feces on us. That kind of presentation, if you will. Neglecting, in part, the people that was brought from the west to the east, as was done by Amerigo Vespucci, as was done by Cristobal Colombo, aka Christopher Columbus. But brothers and sisters, we're talking more so about people such as Balboa. We're talking more so, brothers and sisters, about people such as Alexander Falconbridge. We're talking more so about people such as John Hawkins, brothers and sisters. So, this again is not to sit there and minimize anything of anybody else, but to also never have yours minimalized to make people feel comfortable and so forth. So, welcome to Danitepublications. We hope and pray that everyone is well and will be better. We ask you to comment, like, share, and subscribe. It is at times, brothers and sisters, the custom to have a camera on, but not this time. We're going to, after you already seen who the speaker is, turn off such, and people, we hope, will focus, not trying to beat anybody in the head, as the saying goes, in spirit, but to sit there and focus, if we will, upon more so the presentation as being presented to you. All righty. Thank you for that. All right, so let me look at it this way. And it should come up upon the screen. All righty, it didn't, so yeah, I'm gonna have to master that, how to sit there and get this thing to present and stay presented. All right, so let's look at it this way. Stop that screen, present, share screen, entire screen. Go here, bring it out. Have to get better with that part. Sorry about that, family. So, and from the current slide, it should show up. Wow, still didn't show up. All right, let's do it this way, if we will, family. All right. From current slide, and let's see in that particular case. Okay, yes. Black history from before and during slavery. Welcome to Danitepublications. Sorry about that little fluke right there. We hope and pray that everyone is well and will be better. We ask you to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Now, I want to put people on maybe to a little secret. Why do you find people saying like and subscribe, like and subscribe? Because the more likes a video gets, the more YouTube is prone to sit there and show it to others for advertisement purposes. Yes, it helps if you put the hashtag in and so forth and so on, but it does help when we ask people, and people do help us, to comment, like, share, and subscribe. All right? The numbers across the screen, I can be reached at that number, 908-587-4841. Thank you. Get your pens, pads, paper, and take notes. Now, we're going to start this maybe a little different, considering this is primarily an Israelite channel. And we're going to talk about the Egyptians, which is mentioned in the said Old Testament over 500 times. Egypt and the Egyptians are mentioned, brothers and sisters, in the said Old Testament over 500 times. So we cannot ignore, nor did we ever care to, ignore certain things. So there was a pharaoh named Tahaka, mentioned in the Bible, who also is mentioned inside of Egyptian records. There is a pharaoh named Necho, mentioned in the Bible, also mentioned inside of Egyptian records. There is a pharaoh named Hapra, also known as Apries, mentioned in history in Egyptian records in the Bible, as well as the historian Herodotus. Not that, brothers and sisters, we need that, but it certainly does not hurt, brothers and sisters, to be knowledgeable of certain things. The Egyptian history is based mainly on the matter of the rulers. The Egyptians themselves stated that they came from a place that is by modern Uganda, the Rwenzori area. This is not European. The fact, too, remains the lingual matter of the Egyptians has to be transliterated to English and other European languages. This shows that the phonetics of the Egyptians is not European. What am I saying? It is one thing, brothers and sisters, to have a translation. It's another thing, brothers and sisters, to have what is referred to as a transliteration. A transliteration we see in the Bible when we read the word Nebuchadnezzar. no parent named their child Nebuchadnezzar. When you see it in Jeremiah, when you see it in Ezra, and in other parts of the Bible, that is the Hebrew transliteration of the Babylonian Nebuchadnezzar. When you see, for instance, Ramses, which is commonly stated as an English transliteration, also mentioned in Genesis chapter 47, also mentioned in the Bible in Exodus chapter 1. Brothers and sisters, that is not how his name is said inside of the Egyptian language. So now when we're dealing, brothers and sisters, for instance, with transliteration, is when you take something that is said in one indigenous or native or rooted language and they conform it to the phonetics of another language. Therefore, Nebuchadnezzar becomes Nebuchadnezzar. Christopher Colomb becomes Christopher Columbus. And so that is a distinction, if we will, between saying translation and transliteration. All righty. If we take history, like the fact the rulers of Egypt is mainly from what is said to be of the Menetholites, according to some, there is the Old Kingdom from Dynasty 1 through 6. Then the first intermediate period from Dynasty 7 to part of Dynasty 11. Then the Middle Kingdom from part of Dynasty 11 to Dynasty 13. Then the second intermediate period from Dynasty 14 to Dynasty 17. This includes the time the Hyksos ruled. Now, brothers and sisters, the people who were called Hyksos, as we're going to point out here, did not call themselves such. Did you know that? They were called that. That's not a name that they had for themselves. Whether you say it as Hyksos, the English transliteration of the word Hekakasu or Hakushoshwet, meaning rulers of foreign lands, these people who were called such did not call themselves such. So let's continue. They began to go into Egypt, who became later known as the Hyksos, in Dynasty 11, but did not sit there and have rule until the timing of what we call Dynasty 15. So you just can't look at who is referred to in history as Salatis, who ruled in Dynasty 15 in the northern or lower part of Egypt, while you had dynasties 14 and 17 that was in the southern or upper part of Egypt. The ancient Egyptians, in what we call southern Egypt, they called upper Egypt. And the ancient Egyptians, what we call lower Egypt, or what they call lower Egypt, is really northern Egypt, because they dealt with it by the way in which of the flow of the Nile. The people that we're pointing out, the people of Sematawi, or the unity of the two lands, who were called the people of Mizraim by the Israelites, brothers and sisters, did not call themselves the people of Mizraim, nor did they call themselves Egyptians. So we see a good amount of renaming, classification, bywords, if you will. You understand? So let us continue in this particular matter. The second intermediate period from Dynasty 14 to 17, this includes the time when the Hyksos ruled. Then the New Kingdom from Dynasty 18 to 20. Then the third intermediate period from Dynasties 21 to 25. Then the late period from Dynasty 26 to 30. Then the Ptolemy era. There were 7 times there were dynasties in Egypt that were not native Egyptian. Dynasty 15 and 16 of the Hyksos, Dynasty 22 of the Libyans, who were called the Libu in the Meneptah Stela, Dynasty 25, which was the Kush or Nubian, which correlates to the timing we're talking about, brothers and sisters, of Taharqa, whom we're going to talk about. Because Taharqa, brothers and sisters, we want to do a big history presentation when we get the time to show the correlation between what happened in ancient Israel and the nations of the world. King Hezekiah of Judah, who knew Sennacherib, was also in association with Taharka of ancient Egypt. But Taharka, as pointed out in 2 Kings chapter 19 in the Bible, was an Ethiopian Cushite ruling inside of the land of Kemet, or Kemet, said by the English transliteration. You understand? Somebody wrote, thank you for this, transliteration is when you convert one text to another text while preserving the phonetic sound. Would you say that the phonetic sound can be changed? For instance, when we read Artaxerxes, there's no X in Hebrew. So what we see as the X in Xerxes or Artaxerxes in Hebrew has the letter Chet in it. In ancient Hebrew, for the lack of a better term, there was no two S sounds. For those really into the language, there's 22 letters we see in Psalms 119. Aleph, Bet, Gamel, Dalet, Hey, Wal, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yo, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pei, Zadeh, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Tau. So now when we say the son of Noah as Shem, in Greek transliteration, Shem is Sem, because there is no phonetic SH in Greek or Koine Greek or the language of the Ionian people. The people of Ionia, or I-O-N, said in the Hebrew form as Yawan, is the people of the Hellenes. The Hellenes is the people who call themselves such, but were called the Greeks by the Romans. Do we see how throughout the course of the world, there's a lot of renaming? Like we're called Negroes, African Americans. I'm 45 years old. I remember when Jesse Jackson was making that term popular in the 1980s. I remember watching the movie Malcolm X, and they said that he has no longer become Negro. He is Afro-American. How many names does a people have? And why does a people, or do a people have X, Y, and Z names? Somebody wrote, yes, because it's not going to be 100% the same, correct. But it tried to preserve it as much as possible. Very, very true. For instance, take the Bible, for instance. You read in the book of Chronicles about Shem, Ham, and Japheth. In Greek, Shem is Sem, because as pointed out, there is no, in the phonetics of Greek, an SH syllable like you got Sheen in Hebrew. You understand? So now when you look and saying as that, you have Ham as one of the sons of Noah mentioned. But in the language, it's called Ham. Ham, mentioned in the book of Chronicles chapter 1, is a transliteration of the word Ham. Can we say, for instance, not to get sidetracked, that Nimrod, being a descendant of Ham, and he having ruled in Akkad and Calneh, according to the Bible in Genesis chapter 10, the sons of Ham went into what we call the Middle East, which is a term that was given to that place by a gentleman named Magan in the year 1902. The people of the Middle East did not and do not call themselves say such. That's another byword. General just said his name in 1902. Magan named it such. You understand? Now, when we read the Code of Hammurabi, can we say, as pointed out on the platform before, that Hammurabi is Hammurabi? Because inside of Akkadian language, you will find out that the B and the P are interchangeable. That's why you might see Abiru and Apiru transliterated to the word Hebrew inside of the Akkadian language, which was the dialect that became the lingua franca to a certain extent in history. This is why during the time of 18th dynasty of Egypt, you have what they call the Amarna records written in the land of Egypt, but inside of the Akkadian language. Brothers and sisters, This is how we want to sit there and give an honor to the Most High to show the connections between the linguistics of the people. So don't be surprised, Israel. You understand? When Joseph knew what they were saying in Genesis, because there was a melis, or a melitz, pardon me, an interpreter between the brothers of Joseph in Egypt in Genesis 41 and Zapanat Paneah. As we pointed out before, is in Egyptian, Jitanaf is Yaakov. You understand? This is not to be disrespectful. Ezekiel chapter 20 in the Bible, it says, defile not yourselves with the idols of Egypt. So in archaeology, when you see the seal of Hezekiah with an ark with it, the cane looking thing with that line going underneath the circle, don't be surprised, brothers and sisters. We want to do an extensive study and present, for the lack of a better term, quote unquote, the black civilization of the scriptures. Why do you think Rome will call the Tanakh, as it is called, the Old Testament? The said Old Testament starts off with Shinar, said, brothers and sisters, in history as Sumer. Because just like B and P and Akkadian were interchangeable, M and N was interchangeable when you study ancient linguistics. Now, when you deal with what is referred to as Metronetter, or the ancient Egyptian language, be it the hieroglyphics, which, brothers and sisters, you have demotic, hieratic, and hieroglyphics. The Apera papyrus that we spoke of before on the platform, brothers and sisters, is written in a hieratic matter. And we're going to talk about that in this presentation, about the different writing styles and so forth. But if the ancient Egyptians' language does not go to Europe or Indo-European, then how can they be European? There are people of Arabian descent in Egypt, and the Arabs got into Egypt after the children of Ishmael, namely the people of Nabayot, the firstborn of Ishmael, done mixed in with the people of the Ptolemies. The Ptolemy people were they who came as a kingdom after Alexander. So now, when we look at this kind of matter for reference purposes, if we will, they go into what we call today as Egypt in Northeast Africa. We don't want to give pseudo scholarship here, sidebar. We're not going to look at the pyramid of Khufu or the pyramid at Giza and then sit there and turn around and look at a pyramid in Mexico and say, well, this must be the real Egypt in the West. No. Archaeology does not sit there and prove the location of something. You have pyramids in Ethiopia. Do you know there's more pyramids in Sudan than there are in Egypt? After the colonization, there's more pyramids in modern Sudan than there is in the colonized land of Egypt. The 18th dynasty, with the matter of Amenhotep and so forth, they were building a lot of things building a lot of things south of the cataracts in many cases. So just pointing that out for reference purposes. We're not going to sit there and look again to ancient Egypt archaeology and then sit there and say, well, something is looking similar in the Western Hemisphere, so this must be the true Egypt over here. We're not doing that. One asks, wasn't Egypt once ruled by the people from the Sudan once upon a time? It depends on how you look at it when you say from the Sudan. Because Modern Sudan, the northern part, was part of ancient Egypt. Modern Sudan, the southern part, was part of Nubia or Kush. So now, Sudan, as we see today, was not in the ancient time independent of either ancient Egypt or ancient Kush / Ethiopia. And Israel, when we say that those are Hamites, Joseph was among the Hamites. Moses was mistaken as a Hamitic man. We know linearly he was not. But even the Roman historian Tacitus stated that, the Romans thought that the Israelites descended from people of Ethiopian stocks. And we know Etienne and Ops comes from the Greek word meaning burnt face. Josephus, as pointed out in my book, if you go on the website, you will sit there and see the link for it. From Assyria to America, Josephus mentions that the people in his day and time, which was during the time of the Flavian rule of Rome in the 1st century AD, it was a popular thought among the ancient Romans of the Flavian dynasty timing that the Israelites descended from the Egyptians. And we already know how the Egyptians looked. Now, somebody wrote, hell nah, we from Shem, not Ham. That is very true. Linearly, yes. Shem and Ham were brothers and sisters. The children of Israel, or Israel, was separated from the nations. And in our book, unlike the Judaic book of the Talmud, or pardon me, the Gemara, part of the Talmud itself, right? And later on with Rashi and so forth and so on, we don't say that somebody is dark-skinned and got big lips and a big nose because of this or that. That's not how we teach. Danitepublications or the House of Israel. You know when somebody is a sidebar? If I can be heard well. If I can be heard well, please press the number 4 because it looks like on my end my mic went out. So if you can hear me well, please press the number 4. But you know when, not trying to be funny, when somebody is or could be a sidebar hater, right? Is when somebody say the Black Hebrew Israelites. When we know good and well that black is a byword. We, the Israelites, don't call ourselves Black Hebrews. So when people write a book, this is about the Black Hebrew Israelites, what you're trying to do is kowtow to the Khazarian Jews. That's something we want to point out in that particular case. We want to present this kind of matter. Let me see, because nobody pressed 4. So let me turn up my... We want to present this kind of matter. Okay, able to be heard. Looking at it in this particular case. Shalom, Black, Gross, Run Light, and Shalom, Lorella, Belazer. If I mispronounce your names, please forgive me, brothers and sisters. Let us continue if we see and look in this say kind of matter. All right? Now, dynasties 21 through 25 in the Israelite timeline will be during the timing of the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 20 and Isaiah chapter 21, Isaiah chapter 19 to Isaiah 20 basically speaks about the political matters going on in Egypt. One kingdom versus another, the priesthood versus the rulers. So Israel was aware of what was going on politically in the world around them. They was not ignorant of certain things. They was not, as we may say, under a rock. King Josiah, sadly, who was assassinated by one of the kings of Egypt who ruled in Dynasty 26, named Pharaoh Necho. He's written in the scriptures, in the book of Chronicles. Then we get to the Ptolemy era. When you read later on about Darius. No, actually, pardon me, Dynasty 27 is during the time of Daniel, when you read about Darius of Persia, if you will. But after the ending of the said Old Testament, when the Tanakh ends, depends whether you say the Tanakh, the said Old Testament, ends with Maccabees and the Apocrypha, or it ends with the timing of the Persians as rulers. The Old Testament scriptures opens up with Sumer being rulers and closes with Persia being rulers. The Sumerians in history was called the Black-Head people. Did you know that? Did you know when you look at the palace of Susa, said in his Bible as Shushan, that the images of Cyrus and that of Darius were people of color? Did you know that the Cambyses, who was a relative of Darius and Cyrus mentioned in the scriptures, though he was an idiot, was, for the lack of a better term, a black man? Let's continue, family. Dynasty 31 was Persian again, and Dynasty 32 was Greek. How then, knowing, saying, looking upon all of this, can we ever sit back and think that the people we're talking about who were familiar with each other, whether it was friendly or war, whether it was under the Israelite style of war to lay down their enemies, and kill one, skip one. Kill one, skip one. That's one of the ways, brothers and sisters, that ancient Israel would do war. One of the ways of the ancient Egyptians to do war was to assassinate you, slay you, and then cut off your right hand. Did you know, brothers and sisters, that the ancient Egyptians felt that if they died not in the land of Sematawi, that they was cursed, that if they did not die in their own land, that that's a problem, that they was cursed. So, brothers and sisters, taking these kind of matters and looking upon these kind of things, let's continue, if we will. We ask you to subscribe to the channel, Danitepublications.com. You can go into the description of the video. That, brothers and sisters, is the website. The Rwenzori Mountains, also known as Rwenzori, are a block of mountain range located between Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Sound like in the continent of Africa to me. They are the highest non-volcanic, non-orogenic mountains in the world. So they stand out for certain things. Brothers and sisters, when you go into history and look at the Egyptian timeline, as pointed out here, if we will, the ancient Egyptians, brothers and sisters, said the area we just showed is where their nativity is. Israel, do we know that in our scriptures concerning the Egyptians, it says that their origin comes from the land of Patros? In Egyptian records, Patros is said as Piteret. that is south of modern Sudan. So just as we read about the Egyptians in the scriptures coming from the land south of modern Sudan, so did the Egyptians say of their own origin. So they migrated to what we call Egypt of today by going north. They were further than Egypt south of Egypt in history. The Roman historian Tacitus stated, brothers and sisters, that the land of Palestine, which was called the land of Canaan, and in between that was called the land of Israel, to the south lies Egypt. So Egypt is south of Israel, according to the Roman historian Tacitus. Isaac in the Bible, in Genesis chapter 26, it says, "Go not down into Egypt." Isaiah chapter 30 says, "They who go down into Egypt." So if you're going, for the lack of a better term, down, can we understand it like we say in America, down south, up north? So modern day Egypt, which was in ancient Egypt in ancient times, is south of the land of Israel. So how in the world you got Israelites and other people, no offense intended, saying that the Holy Land is in Utah or Peru? That Jerusalem is in South America of today? No, it's not. We did a presentation on Mora Yeshaya history lessons, speaking geographically that the scriptures talks about where the lands of Israel are. So we ask you to subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share. Let's continue, family. Egyptian and Greek. So the Greeks came to rule Egypt with the timing of Ptolemy after Alexander died. The fact Cleopatra did speak ancient Egyptian and is shown as being impressive, as such, being a European, shows the lingual matter of the Egyptian and that of the Europeans is not the same. Cleopatra was, brothers and sisters, of the Ptolemy people. She was a European, brothers and sisters. That's why we have to understand about dating and who was ruling when. And if Cleopatra in history was known to be able to speak the ancient Egyptian, if you was truly Egyptian, that would not be a great feat. That would be expected. So that's just something, again, if we may and will point out for reference purposes. All right? Now let's look. The fact what is known today as knowledge of Egyptian language comes from the Rosetta Stone dating to the time of Ptolemy V, where Greek is used as a basis to understand Egyptian, shows that the languages are different. How they are able to decipher, quote unquote, decode ancient Metuneta or ancient Egyptian is by looking at something called the Rosetta Stone in history that dates to the timing of Ptolemy V. Of brothers and sisters, the timing, as we may say, we're talking about the 3rd century into the 2nd century BCE. This is written, brothers and sisters, during the time in Israelite history, during the time of the Maccabees revolting. Ptolemy V had war with Antiochus III. So now when you go in the Bible, in the prophecy of Daniel chapter 11, and it says about the king of the north and the king of the south, that's talking about the wars between the Ptolemies and the Seleucids, which is documented, brothers and sisters, on the platform Mora Yeshaya History Lessons in a presentation that is called From Jerusalem to the Hood. Let us continue in this. Egyptian language, whether hieroglyphs or otherwise, are not European based. This is not a racist statement. Now, why does all of that come into play? Because you got some people trying to say, looking at the mummies, which you was not supposed to dig up, okay, but looking at the mummies, say, oh, their nose is pointy and their hair is straight. Yeah, they're Europeans. So look at the linguistic matter of the people. Because ancient Metuneter, ancient Egyptian, is not Indo-European nor of European based. Check. Were you ever supposed to dig up the mummies of Sipta? No. Were you ever, brothers and sisters, supposed to see Hatshepsut inside the museum, as me and my now ex have seen? No. So these are things, brothers and sisters, to point out, if we will, for reference purposes. Now, let's look at this and talk about this for a moment. The Egyptians, as pointed out in the book a brother wrote, called Egypt Talking Writing, was welcoming the Greek sin. Hence, we may see why no Egyptian knocked down the image of Alexander the Great murderer, Alexander the Great rapist, Alexander the Great colonizer, as he is pictured in ancient Egyptian art next to the Egyptian god Amun. He is revered among the ancient Egyptians because the Persians before, who were ruling in Egypt, were oppressive to the Egyptians, which is peculiar in history because the Persians, namely the Medes and the Persians, were not very oppressive to the Israelites as they were to the Egyptians. And yet the Greeks, brothers and sisters, were oppressive to the Israelites, certainly after the time of Alexander. So now, when you read in history in 198 BCE about the Pinion battle between the Ptolemies and the Seleucids, is during the timing of when we see this writing here referred to in history as the writing there, the Rosetta Stone. Let's continue, family. Regarding the fact that Ethiopia was not conquered by Europeans like the Egyptians and Hebrews, shows that in Dynasty 25, there was no way to show the Nubians as looking European. What am I saying? In the movie The Ten Commandments, they can picture Seti, even though he's shown inside the Egyptian temples as being brown skin, aka black. They can show him in that movie The Ten Commandments, which is blasphemous when you look at it. The movie The Ten Commandments is blasphemous for first trying to make an image of the Most High. That's straight up disrespect. You saw no similitude in the day that Yah, the Most High, spoke to Israel. So for them in that movie, The Ten Commandments, to make this pillar of fire kind of thing, that was the first effrontery in that case. On a human level, you try to sit there and make it seem as if Yul Brenner can sit there and play Ramses and whoever was playing Seti. But because in history, the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Israelites was colonized by the Europeans, it's easy to show Charlton Heston as Moses and Yul Brenner as Ramses. But you cannot show, even when they showed in that movie The Ten Commandments, the quote Nubians, you have to show them as the true image of who they were, because ancient Kush / Ethiopia, unlike ancient Egypt, unlike ancient Israel, was not colonized by the Europeans. So these are things, again, brothers and sisters, that we care to bring out for reference purposes. Any questions or comments, please feel free to put it into the chat. Pharaoh Taharka, written in the Bible, brothers and sisters, in 2 Kings chapter 19, verse 9 to be exact. Regarding the matter of mummies having straight hair, the fact remains that for black people's hair to be shown as, say, that of an afro, it has to be alive, have breath, be maintained. Because one of their silly arguments is, well, when you look at the mummies, they got straight hair. You're talking about something that's over 2,000 years old that you wasn't supposed to dig up in the first place. You're looking at somebody's dead hair. Hair already is dead cells. To maintain your afro, you have to treat it correctly. Otherwise, it will sit there and just wind up getting straight like that. For turning, nappier, for the lack of a better term, and locking. And when your hair is locked, it does look straight. That's not still European. That's just black people's hair that's not maintained as an afro. So, check that. Again, you wasn't supposed to dig up the mummies anyway. So let's continue in looking at this. In order to understand the people, Egypt or anyone else, one must understand the lingual of a people, the culture of a people, and the traits of a people. As pointed out, for Arabs who went to Egypt after the time of Rome's occupation there, because the Arabs you see there went in there in the 6th century AD, 500 AD. Rome as an empire fell in the West in 476 AD and fell in the East under the Byzantine Empire in 1453 AD. So now, if Rome fell in the West in 476 AD or 476 CE, depends on how you want to look at AD or CE, and then the Arabs get into Egypt after that, after Greece, the Ptolemies, after the matter with Rome and so forth, after Mark Antony committed suicide and the Edomite people under Herod, get your history up, sided with Augustus. So now in the Dead Sea Scrolls, when Rome comes against the Israelites, it makes sense for the Israelites to write, wow, Rome is Edom. That's not saying the Japhetic nations of the Romans are the people from Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. The Edomites joined on and made a league with the people of the Romans. So if you have your brother nation go into a whole other nation to go against you, you're going to look at your brother more so sideways. That doesn't mean that the Romans themselves were the children of Esau. So these are things, brothers and sisters, that we care to bring out for reference purposes. When these Arabs who were in Egypt, let me finish reading this and then try to make another point. As pointed out, for Arabs who went to Egypt after the time of Rome's occupation there, to say that they are the Egyptians of old is like saying the Moors, who were black, saying, being in Spain from the 8th to the 15th centuries AD, that they were the people of ancient Spain, say when they fought for the Romans. Ancient Spain that fought for the Romans were not black people out of Africa. That was straight Spaniards or the people of Castile. Being in a place for a while does not mean you have squatter rights to the culture and legacy of the people have and left. What am I saying? For these people who are Arabs, to say that they are part of the ancient people of ancient Egypt, but you only get there in history in the 6th century AD. Why are you not maintaining the culture of the ancient Egyptians if that's your people? Why are you not teaching, correct me if I'm wrong, the Metuneta, which would be the language of your people? And no, brothers and sisters, on this platform is certainly knowing who the Most High is. I do not deal with the Ennead of Egypt. I don't deal with the Trinity of Christianity's Rome. I do not call on Sekhmet or Ma'at. I do not call on Allah or say that Muhammad was a prophet of such. We, the Israelites, have our own God, Yod He Wah-He, the Most High, the one who sees all and is not seen. Hayah-Yihweh, he who was, he who will be. And what I'm saying, brothers and sisters, I do not mean to offend anybody. But I want to give a shout out, if I may, to my older sister in spirit, Gover Kokabia, and her Ish, or her husband, Saul Naaman. I don't, like they say in the prayer, I'm not here to sit there and hurt your feelings. I'm here to sit there to bring things out. Some Israelites may wonder, why the brother Yeshaya go all over the earth and so forth. It's because this stuff is written in our book, baby. You got to be able to explain why it's Tahaka written in the book of Kings in the Tanakh. How do you explain the name Zephaniah Paneah when we're saying we're part of the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, the sons of Joseph? So when you write there, that's what they are. Who are they and who are they, if I may ask? If you can explain in the comment section. Thank you. But getting back into this, and I'm able to see the comments. I appreciate the people making comments, right? The Arabs being in Egypt for over 1,000 years does not give them squatter rights. And I wanted to present this before I make the statement of this. If they are the people of the ancient Egyptians, like they try to say from the Scorpion dynasty into the Old Kingdom and so forth, when did Allah, Islam, Muhammad, and the Quran get respect in the land of Samatawi if it was not by the Arabs that came from out of Mecca and Saudi Arabia? The culture is different. The culture, the religion, the language, the rights, R-I-T-E-S, of the Arabs and that of the ancient Egyptians is two different peoples, two different cultures, two different languages. So no, Mr. Muhammad, no disrespect when we was in Egypt and you was the tour guide. No, you're not from Ramses. No, European, you're not from Amenemhat. You got Arabs out of Asia and white people out of Europe trying to claim African places. No. And if it takes us down to Israel, who are not the descendants of Ham, like the children of Mizraim are, to speak the truth, then so be it. Referring to the Arabs coming over claiming they things that they're not. And that is true. Claiming things that they are not. The brothers and sisters, these are things we care to bring out for reference purposes. Let's move on. Antiochus III, in the battle he had against the Ptolemies, he was able to get what is now called Palestine. Palestine, as a name, did not get to that place until the era, the timing, of Hadrian of Rome, who was a Spaniard. He was of Spain, brothers and sisters. Adrian, who you see there on the right-hand side. Hadrian named it in honor of the Philistines, naming it Palestine, in an attempt to rid the Hebrews' name of that place. Get rid of the Hebrew, if you will. Just the same, the Egyptians, okay, did not call themselves such. They were called that. That renaming of lands and people, too, must be understood. Did, for instance, the people called Greeks call themselves such? No. They were called that Grecos by the Romans. They called themselves Hellenes. This is when you get the term Hellenism from. Did the people we mentioned earlier, called Hyksos, call themselves that? No. So even when dealing with Native Americans, they did not call themselves Americans. They called themselves according to their tribes and peoples. So when you're dealing with linguistics, translation, transliteration, renaming of lands, colonization, and so forth, we have to understand how that in history played out. Hadrian there, in the Israelite history, is in the 2nd century AD or the 2nd century CE, in what you call the Battle of Bar Kokhba. And he made it illegal for the house of Israel that was in the land of Egypt and Libya at that time to go into the land of Israel. He barricaded the Israelites from going into that land. So where did the Israelites go that was barricaded by the orders of Hadrian of Rome to go into the land of Israel? Where did the Israelites go? Let's see. There is a people in Gondar, in the Gondar area of Ethiopia, that are called Falasha. They do not call themselves such. The language they speak, Amharic, is linked to the language of Hebrew. Hebrew is listed as an Afro-Asiatic language. So, when in Hebrew one says Shabbat, in Amharic one would say Sanbat. It is interesting that the lingual matter in many of these types of conversations, such as Arabs being the ancient Egyptians, the Greeks, the white man being the ancient Egyptians, and the Europeans being the true Israelites, is not spoken upon. The lingual matter is not spoken upon. Hebrew is not a European language. Yet people use silly memes, which just came from a conversation, and weird emojis and slanders without getting into the matter. In the time of ancient Egypt, there was a guy named Amenhotep who robbed a tomb of a ruler. They put him to death. This can be found in what is now called the Leopold Papyrus II. Brothers and sisters, what are we pointing out? In ancient Egypt, they put somebody to death as what they will call today capital punishment for going into the tombs of Ramses the Ninth, correct me if I'm wrong, in Dynasty 20. This can be found in what is referred to as the Leopold Papyrus II, or the second. So now, even looking at the mummies in the Egyptian culture was a crime. Howard Carter would not get love from Egyptians for, quote, finding Hatshepsut. Hatshepsut even spoke of the, quote, barbarians, check this out now, whom is translated from that language as barbarians, who were in history called the Hyksos, also the Amu/Asiatics of time before Hatshepsut. Hatshepsut was a queen in Dynasty 18. She was the wife of Thutmose II. Now, whether she was endorsing or not, Thutmose III tried to change her image into looking like that of a man. She is shown, correct me if I'm wrong, in the Wars of Karnak, already being married to Thutmose II, as running away, maybe you might say in a playful manner, from the Egyptian god Men or Menu with an erect phallus. The ancient Egyptians worshipped the male's anatomy. So now, sad to say, when we read again in Ezekiel, the Israelite prophet, defile not yourselves with the gods of Egypt. And it says that they took of the Egyptian gods and dressed them. Knowing what the Egyptians in part were into, like one of their stories of creation, saying that one of their gods made himself erect and masturbated the world into existence, is one of the creation stories of ancient Egypt. So no, the Torah does not come out of Egypt. But brothers and sisters, when you look at the record from what they call the coffin text, and prior to that, the pyramid text, is where you get the creation stories that ancient Egypt had on how they understood the world came into being. And one of them they refer to as self-engendering, that's to say, for the lack of a better term, masturbating the world into existence. So, what tool do we care to bring out? Did sadly ancient Israel dress the gods of the Egyptians as we read in Ezekiel 20 and, quote, did things with that? When we read in the scriptures, understanding the Israelite mindset, the Lord will bring you back into Egypt in ships. In Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. And they praise it with the obelisk in DC. Mock pyramids that they got over there in Vegas. The dollar bill, which has that pyramid say upon it. Brothers and sisters. And these crack doctors that sit there and tell you that self-sex is normal. You don't need a partner. You can do things on your own, so to speak. So these are things, not trying to sound gross, that we care to sit there and bring out for reference purposes. Now, on the map on the right-hand side, brothers and sisters, who are the Beta Israel? Lake Tana, brothers and sisters, is one of the places what is referred to as the Blue Nile goes through. Israel. When we hear other brothers and sisters say that the so-called Falashes, who call themselves Beta Yisrael, are not Israelites according to some, here's a question. How do you explain the prophecy that we see in Isaiah chapter 11 about Israelites being in the land of Cush? One. Second, the community that we're talking about keeps Sanbat Shabbat. They keep Fasika Passover. They are unaware of the timings that we talk about, such as Purim and Hanukkah, which would show that they've been in the community that they are in Ethiopia, or certainly outside of the land of Israel, before the timing of the Persians, with the Israelites, which will bring upon the timing of Purim and the timing of the Seleucids and the Israelites, which is after the timing of Esther and Purim, and culminating into Hanukkah. The days that we see in the Bible in Leviticus chapter 23, the Beta Yisrael, the so-called Falashes, observed that. How did they get to know of those days that are set aside specifically for the Israelites, if they are not Israelites or they were not influenced by Israel? They didn't have the KJV 1611. When they were quote-unquote discovered by the Portuguese in the 1670s, they wasn't speaking English. I've met a couple of them throughout the course of my life, so-called Falashes. I want to say the experience that I had when I met them was night and day, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. They either look at you like you stupid, or they look at you in reverence. They either ready to shake your hand and greet you, or they hope you don't say good morning to them. That's their problem. So these are things, brothers and sisters, again, that we care to bring out for reference purposes. Any questions or comments? Please feel free to put it into the chat. Thank you. Now, we're going to take an intermission, brothers and sisters, and hopefully the presentation has been well received and appreciated. Comment, like, share, and subscribe, family. And we're going to sit there and play something that we had from earlier in this intermission and get back to it. Thank you for that, family. All right?
Yeah. Can you see the fire
Exclusive
in my
joint.
eyes? Can you feel it burning in my
that's
soul?
my Israel Volume
That
3.
we've been going through from the
Hit
time
you in the head when you flavor, y'all.
worldwide. Things that make
Check
me
it
wanna
out.
cry. The things
Seven
that make me
seas,
wanna
seven
die.
lands.
Stretch my
Zakar and
arms out to
Sharia.
you. I pray to
Yeah.
thee again, Most High. Israel, hear me. We all we have. Israel, hear me. We all we have. We all we have. We all we have. Yeah. Save my people, Israel. Please save thy people, Israel. Most High, we need you so. We need you so. Ha'eliel. Ha'barak. Amen. Abi-Eli. Please save me. Please save me. Israel, hear me. We all we have. We all we have, yeah. Israel, hear me. We all we have. We all we have. Oh, save my people, Israel. Please save Israel. Almost I we need you so. We need you so. Ha'eliel. Avarak. Amen. Abi-Eli. Please save me. Please save me. Israel, save me. We all we have. We all we have. We all we have. Yeah. Israel, hear me. We all we have. We all we have. We need each other. Israel, need each other. We all we have. Israel, hear me. We all we have. We all we have. We all we have. Yeah. Listen. Get away from all the sins that I have and the things that lead me astray. I know if I strive, I will reach my Lord. Say like my new Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh. My troubles make me wanna just run away. The pressure is on. What shall I do? I feel like I have nobody, no one to lean on. So I choose you, Heavenly Father. But please don't make me cry. The morning shade is heavy on me, ripping my soul, tearing my soul alive. Get away from all the sins that I have and the things that lead me astray. I know if I strive, I would reach my Lord. Say like my new Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh. Yes, I'm trapped. giving thanks, thanks to your hope. It's all about you. He let us know that we are Israelites, and I can see over and over how He molded and guided our life. Giving thanks, thanks to your hope. 'Cause we can never thank Thee enough. I can believe that we are His children. I never knew that He loved us so much. Moshe was a great and mighty prophet. He set the standards for the prophet yet to come. A godly man and a strong and humble leader. His place and time can never be undone. Oh, give thanks, thanks to your hope. He let us know that we are Israelites, and I can see over and over how He molded and guided our life. Give thanks, thanks to your hope, 'cause we can never thank Thee enough. I can believe that we got His children. I never knew that He loved us so much. So we will praise You, Jehovah, 'cause there is none that is like unto Thee. So you're the one who made our lives bolder. You're the one who gave us life and the lasting legacy. And oh, give it thanks, thanks to your hope. He let us know that we are Israelites, and I can see over and over how He molded and guided our life. Giving thanks, thanks to your hope, 'cause we can never thank Thee enough. I can believe that we are His children. I never knew that He loved
Shalom,
us so
shalom.
much.
Let's get started.
Moshe was a great and mighty prophet. He set the standard for the prophet yet to come. A godly man.
Shalom, family. Thank you for that. Just played those songs right there in that particular case. We hoping and praying that everybody is well and will be better. Let's see if I got it this time. If I start here again and do it this way, does it show up on the screen, or do I have to do the present screen again? Because what you and I see and what I put up is 10 seconds apart. All right. So it's like I would see it before on my screen I'm talking into. Before I will see it, and you all will see it at the same time on the external part. So, okay, I see I got to do the stop screen, then do the present, then the share screen, then the entire screen in that case, then pull this up, and then go to the current slide, and all right, let's do it differently. Sorry about that, family. Thank you for that. Okay, I think I have forgot to press into that. Getting this up again. We're starting from the current slide, and it should show. And it does. Now, it's custom on this platform, brothers and sisters, that I don't show my face because I'd rather the focus be upon, say, the presentation itself. In that particular case, all right. Looking at it in that particular case, all right, we're going to if we will do it like this, and then go to the current slide. Thank you for that. Now, there was a statement about the confusion for me is put the land or country on Israel. We were scattered all over the earth. Yes, we were scattered all over the earth. I'm going to have to ask, shalom to you, my friend, Michael Tompkins. What, when you say that, what are you saying about the confusion put on the land of Israel? If you can give me more information of what you're speaking of in that case, that'll be appreciated. Thank you for that. All right. If people in good spirits and you can hear me well, please press the number 4. Thank you for that. John Brown, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and James Cape, Fort Worth, Texas. Most of the time, there was more than 300 slaves on the plantation. The oldest ones came right from Africa. My grandmother was one of them. Mammy told it to me. The slaves were landed at Charleston. Brothers and sisters, you know Charleston is South Carolina, right? Many of our people were dropped off directly from Africa into Charleston, South Carolina. And then some other ones was dropped off directly from Africa into what they call the area of Wall Street in Manhattan today. Now, according to John Brown, not shown in the picture, that's James Cape in the picture, right? Most of the time, there was more than 300 slaves on the plantation. The oldest ones came right from Africa. So if you have a slave narrative, and you can look this up on your own, by John Brown in Tulsa, Oklahoma, saying that his grandmother came from Africa according to his mother, and you got people saying, or you have people saying, they say they got, you should say they have, okay, my fault. Listen to your grandparents. My grandmother didn't tell me I was an Indian or Indian. This is not to say that there were no melanated or black people, if you will, in what we call the United States of today prior to the Atlantic slave trade. But this is what we saw about earlier about marginalizing or minimalizing the matter of what happened with us. Oh, there were no ships. We was already here and Africa had no kingdoms. Just say you don't like Africa. Be 100, like Hatshepsut, Queen of Egypt was. We don't like the Amu, the Asiatics. The Asiatics were people of color as well. Just keep it 100 and say you don't like it. Keep it 100 like ancient Egypt did. When you read in the Bible, we don't eat with the Habiru. It's an abomination for the Egyptians to eat with the Hebrews. Don't sit at the table, at the cookout, as we say as black people, fronting, playing yourself, not being 100 about your feelings. If you don't like Africa, just say it. You don't have to sit there and say we are Indians and Africa had no kingdoms and everything was just over here looking at Egypt's pyramids and look at the pyramid in the West, say that's the case. These are some of the things that people have stated. Now, I got to ask a question to somebody who just put in the chat. Shalom from Fort Worth, Texas. Thank you. Learn a lot. Is there a difference? And I'm asking so I can learn. Is there a difference between Fort Worth, Texas and Dallas, Texas? Like geographically. Because I remember being in Dallas. I remember not being funny. When I was a child, they were like, there's Daily Plaza and all of that. That's the grassy knoll. I was over there as a child on a trip before. But I'm asking, there is a difference between Fort Worth, Texas and Dallas, Texas? And if you're saying yes, I now learned something. And I appreciate that. All right. All right. I was asked if I can explain Revelation chapter 12, verse 14, time and place. And I want to say, in due respect, Danitepublications is an Old Testament-based platform. This is a Tanakh-based platform. So in due respect, I don't know what to say regarding Revelation, which is in the New Testament, as far as explaining time and place in that. So hopefully that's understood. Our friend Michael Thompson also wrote, yes, sir, we were taught to thinking in terms of nationality, not ethnicity. And I believe I get the point, but if you can type in, thank you, Michael Tompkins, about the matter, if there's a difference between nationality and ethnicity. Is it like saying, correct me if I'm wrong, I become a national citizen of a place if I get my passport and the papers, but my ethnicity goes to somewhere else? Is that the difference between nationality? You could become part of any nation, but you can't become part of any ethnicity. So if that is what you're saying, please enlighten me on that. Okay, so you're saying learned a lot. Thank you. I appreciate the people in the comments. You're saying that there is a difference between Dallas and pardon me, there's a difference between Fort Worth and Dallas. See, learn something geographically. All right. Cool. Thank you for that info. Now let's look. Now, if I mispronounce words, please bear with me. I was born in yonder southeast Texas, and I didn't know what month or the year for sure, but 'twas more than 100 years ago. My mammy and pappy were born in Africa. That's what they told me. They was owned by Master Bob Houston, and him had the ranch down there where they had cattle and horses. Brothers and sisters, that is John Cape in the picture from Fort Worth, Texas. And on the right-hand side, where it says, being 100 years old and older, that his mama and papa came from Africa. So now when you hear people start talking about slave narratives and where the people said they themselves or their grandparents or even their parents came from, not too hard to figure out, brothers and sisters. All right? Any questions or comments, please feel free to put some in the chat. Okay, I'm saying correct, or pardon me, not I'm saying correct. You're saying correct in regards with you can almost become any nationality by claiming the paperwork of a nation, but that doesn't make you the ethnicity. Like if I get citizenship, I could become a Chinese citizen or a citizen of China, but my lineage and my ethnicity does not go back to the samurai. Is the samurai China or the samurai a different place? Am I misquoting? Sorry. But my point nonetheless is it doesn't go back to, say, the Yuan dynasty. All right, putting it in terms like that. So let me continue in this. Thank you, family. Sylvia King, Marlin, Texas, and Susan Snow, Meriden, Mississippi. That one we're going to read about in Meriden, Mississippi with Susan Snow kind of made me emotional. So there's certain things I'm just not going to mention in that, but one of the horror things, besides the women being hung upside down and the baby being cut out, one of the horror things in slavery is, and my princess is 18, they would have the females stark naked in slavery until she's 13, 14 years old. So now, sadly, when we read in Deuteronomy 28, you shall serve your enemies, whom the Most High will send against you in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness. They had to, in Deuteronomy 28, remember, they called our book the Old Testament, and we were not allowed to read, as pointed out in the song in the presentation earlier in this video. There's a part in there that says the slaves are not allowed to read and write. There was a reason for that. Nat Turner knew how to read, problem. Frederick Douglass knew how to read, problem. Then Mark Vesey knew how to read, problem. But the one who didn't know how to read, good. Good for them. I know I was born in Morocco in Africa and was married and had 3 children before I was stole from my husband. I don't know who it was stole me, but they took me to France, to a place called Bordeaux, and drugs me with some coffee. And when I knows anything about it, I was in the bottom of a boat with a whole lot of other niggas. That's a testimony from Sylvia King in Marlin, Texas, from Morocco to France and then eventually to the United States. Susan Snow from Alabama to Mississippi stated this: I was born in Wilcox Country, Alabama in 1850. W.J. Snow was my old master. He bought my ma from a man named Jerry Cassie. Venus was her name, but they mostly called her Venie. My mom was a black African, and she sure was wild and mean. All the niggas on the place was born in the family and was kin, set mama. She told me how they brought her from Africa. They stole mama and some more and brought them to this country. This is the testimony of Susan Snow. So please, family, let us not ever think we could get reparations if we say that we're Indians. You cannot give monetary reparations. And we're not going to get too graphic, and we're going to use as clean words as possible for using thumb screws that they even showed in the movie Roots. You understand? You cannot, family, give monetary matters regarding, if you will, cutting the woman's vagina out and wearing it as an ornament on your forehead, cutting off the man's head and kicking it around like a ball, castrating a man, cutting off his ears. When you read the record of the Black Code in 1685 by the King of France, given 100 lashes in slavery if you was caught running away. Having the son go in one room and arousing himself to go to the other room and have physical sexual activity. I will never fix my mouth to say intercourse, where they get the term mother's F word from. Where they had females doing the work of horses and oxen, like Harriet Tubman being one of them. You can't pay me your currency with Washington on the one for that, who took out black people's teeth in slavery and used it as his own. You can't pay me in a currency with Lincoln on it, who fired a white man who freed the black people in Missouri because Lincoln was too scared to sit there and think that they still wanted to stay on the side of the Union. His name was Fremont. You can't pay me with the $10 bill with Hamilton on it, who encouraged slavery. You can't pay me with the 20 with Jackson on it, with the Trail of Tears, which he did to the indigenous native people of this land. Rape black women, or as they want us to say online, S bleep, sexual bleep, A for assault, and then had the children that she produced as slaves. You can't pay me with Grant on a $50 bill, having 5 to 7 slaves himself as he sits there and makes war against Jefferson Davis and Alexander Stephens of the Confederacy. Grant was a hypocrite. Now, you can't pay me your currency to try to override your wickedness. So, brothers and sisters, these things we care to bring out, if we will, for reference purposes. As pointed out in the description of this, I am open to constructive criticism. All right? So let me Have to do the present screen again, share screen again in that manner. Current slide in that way like that. And I think I know exactly what I did wrong this time. I forgot to have it entire screen. And somebody wrote, source, I belong to South Carolina. South Carolina was the place where they set forth the Civil War in history. And the people in the North were hypocrites in that particular case. Now, there's historians that say that Jefferson Davis had black people in fighting in the Confederacy Army. But even if that is true, they did not fight. They may have just been, quote unquote, been given their freedom and enlisted or whatever like that. But that was less than 2 months before the war really even ended. And the understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, history about 40 acres in the mule, brothers and sisters, came from General Sherman, who was fighting for the North, who took over Atlanta in the 1864 era timing. But he didn't fight for black people. And the assassinator, if that's even a word, or the one who assassinated Lincoln, kind of said that. John Wilkes Booth said Negroes is not on the agenda of Lincoln. He does not care, excuse me to quote him correctly, John Wilkes Booth, who is the person who assassinated Lincoln, said Lincoln does not care about the niggas. When they picture Lincoln as black, it's because they're trying to insult him. That's what they're doing in those pictures. I've seen some of those in history, newspaper articles and so forth saying you're a Negro. That's not saying that his ancestry goes back into Africa, if you will. But brothers and sisters, looking back at this, Susan Snow from Meridian, Mississippi, talk about where she was inside of Alabama. So what I did over here, brothers and sisters, was show John Brown, James Cape, Sylvia King, Susan Snow. So like 2 males and 2 females. And that was the point in that particular case. YYISRAEL22@yahoo.com. Danitepublications is dedicated to help setting truth back in the earth. Truth that some say was suppressed. And I take respectful advantage of being called boring by my princess, who's my little girl, which allows me to have a reason to get these notes together. She herself is going to be a veterinarian. Sidebar, brothers, if you got children, it ain't too late. Let's not continue the thing that happened in slavery with the breaking of the family up, breaking up of the family, and the mama this and sisters and the baby daddy this. Let's end that. All right? We who love history want to have it to where it is not marginalized or made to feel that it is not important. We encourage you all to get your studies together, whatever it may be in. Get your health together, mental, spiritual, and other aspects. We at Danitepublications, the link is in the description, have other videos and books which you can get directly from online. We can be reached at 908-587-4841 in Hebrew. Tisha Efes Shemona. Hamisha Shemona Sheba. Arba Shemona Arba Echad. All right? Just want to put that out there for those who are interested, brothers and sisters, in that manner. This is 10 slides. We hope that it was understood, appreciated. If there are any questions or comments, please feel free to put it into the chat. Subscribe to the channel, please. We have more presentations to come in that particular manner, not to get too personal. A brother does have 2 jobs, dealing with family situations and things of that nature, but I now have a better understanding of my schedules in which I can sit there and have the time and the energy to be able to do so, because this is by the Spirit. It is not, oh, I studied the book so I could put things together. This goes by the Spirit of the one who created the heavens and the earth. You understand? So it's a spirit like, now do it, now fall back. And so this is why ultimately we give honor and praise unto the Most High, creator, maker of heaven and earth. Thank you for subscribing to those who did. Shalom.
Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, instead of trying to be something y'all ain't. Ain't bang them books, ain't bang them books.